Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called A Little Extra Biomass, written by Majestic Teach 6677. Everybody knows that your kind needs biomass, the human female at my docking port said, with a pleasant smile. Consider this a free extra. But I started to object, but was quickly cut off. I know what will happen, she continued, while giving me a roll of her eyes. If my research is correct, you shouldn't have any adverse reactions to any of these chemicals. That said, you should double-check. The human then flicked on the datapad and sent me a packet of information which my tertiary processing core analyzed in under 100 milliseconds. No, none of these would affect me, I started hesitantly, before being cut off again. Then what's the problem? The woman said with exasperation. You're sapient, I responded dumbly. Her request was ludicrous. The woman just sighed, shook her head at my visual receptors, and settled on a pose with a raised eyebrow. My translation matrix informed me this was intended to convey that I was an idiot. As I've explained, I have cancer, which is incurable, and a life expectancy of no more than 6 to 12 weeks, she said firmly. The biomass will become available then. I don't understand, I said in a tone my matrix informed me should convey the human concept of what the fuck. She glanced down at her datapad, tapped a few times, and then sent a new, much larger data packet. Here's my full bioscan, she said in a tone which translated as, stop being an idiot. I understand your kind performs miracles with biology. Can you fix what's wrong with me? I assigned the task of review to my secondary processing core. After a full second of consideration, the results seemed conclusive. To be sure, I ran the data again through my primary core and gave it my full attention. Unfortunately, no, I said sadly. The diagnosis is correct. Neither myself nor any of my makers could offer much more than a short extension. I would simply say that your human physicians have been slightly pessimistic. Likely survival will be in the range of 10 to 15 weeks. For some reason, the woman flinched slightly at my prognosis, but the reaction was fleeting as she quickly smiled and launched into her pitch once again. As I told you, I've always wanted to see the universe, she explained with some obvious frustration. I always thought that I'd have time, but someone has to draw a short straw, and I got it. 32 years old, aggressive breast cancer, that spread to the rest of my body before I was detected, not helped by the fact that I ignored the symptoms for 4 weeks before seeking medical attention. But that's another matter entirely. Your family and friends, it started before being cut off yet again. They already know. Hell, they helped me put together all the supplies and are hoping that you'll say yes. She spoke with some clear frustration in her voice. That's why it isn't just me. It's over 6 months of foodstuffs, a full biobed and wheelchair packed with parts that you can salvage, and a backpack atmospheric processing system with spare oxygen tanks. Plus, you get my remains when they're remaining, and I'm no longer using them. Spare parts, spare material, and a little extra biomass. Where's the downside? This is most disconcerting and unusual, I responded unsurely. So, this is a little weird, she said, with yet another eye roll. I'm still moving rather than the chopped up but so slightly dead sapient biomass your kind sometimes collect from worlds. Just suck it up and let me see the stars. We, Lenchari, were built for the purpose of exploring the stars. With well over 250 billion stars in the galaxy, it'll take my kind tens of millions of human years to catalogue them all. I'm an advanced blend of biological sapient and advanced computational technologies integrated into an FTL-capable vessel. In my nearly 250 human years of existence, I've never heard such commentary and was now thoroughly regretting my decision to bring this human aboard. I spun a visual receptor at Sarah as she sat on the biobed, currently configured to be what the woman referred to as a comfy chair. She was staring out the main window at the gas giant below. Tell me I'm wrong, she called out, overly enthusiastically. It's just another gas giant, and not particularly noteworthy amongst the 40,000 that I have already catalogued, I responded with irritation. I failed to see how this one is angry. Just look at the spots. It isn't just one huge storm like Jupiter. It's multiple large spots, she explained. The last one was just calm and striped, peaceful and relaxing by comparison. It's insane that you see things like this, I stated flatly, while returning my visual receptor to the data she had distracted me from. And I fail to understand why you want me to include such vivid and clearly unscientific descriptions in my data. They are unsupported by facts. But it's so different from the other ones that you've shown me so far, she responded firmly, before her voice shifted to quieter and more contemplative. This one is dimly lit since it's so far out from the star. I bet that's why it's grumpy. I checked the data. Curiously enough, there did seem to be a correlation between the size of the storms and the distance to the star. As the human saying goes, every now and then, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. Except that this condition was not entirely unique, and I could bring up nearly 3,000 other gas giants I had scanned with similar parameters. Well, Sarah's excitement for each new system we visited was invigorating. Her prattling, nonsensical descriptions of what we discovered were more than enough to make me regret my decision to allow her on board. I assigned my tertiary core to perform a bioscan and check the progression of her cancer. Unfortunately, the progression seemed to be slower than expected, and she would likely be with me for closer to 18 weeks. Before you said, no, that comet doesn't look like an ice cream cone, I said firmly. Sarah slowly raised the back of the biobed to look out the main window at the comet I'd slowed down to observe. What? She said weakly, before focusing on the celestial object outside. Oh, no, definitely not an ice cream cone. That's a spitball flying through space. A spitball? I asked with both curiosity and confusion. The spitball is something you scrunch up into your mouth, then you shove into a straw with your tongue, and then blow it out with a big breath through the straw, she explained with a chuckle. You get extra points if it makes a particularly wet, slobbery mess when it hits someone or something. Fine, I responded curtly. It's noted in the new non-analytical commentary section as a spitball. Expect most of the galaxy to wonder what's wrong with humanity when they read it. We do stupid things when we're young, she said, with a sad smile, and pausing for a moment to reflect. Then she perked up and continued, We have a saying that explains it. Little things amuse little minds. Also, a great phrase to use as an insult towards sapiens acting childish. I am not sure that explains very much, I commented dryly. Very few sapiens would consider shooting anything at each other, even in play, especially something which might be classified as a bioweapon, given the number of germs in the human mouth. And what's with our notes being demoted out of the main abstract description? She asked with irritation. Why are we being forced into a new non-analytical commentary section? I vocalized a sigh for Sarah, dreading what would be coming next. According to the Lanchari primary data compiler, our notes have been found to be entertaining by many sapiens reviewing our data, I said slowly. The new section has been created not to hide it, but to make it more easily searchable. All of my kind are now being encouraged to include such notes with their reports. Ha! She called out in a tone that left no need for me to turn a visualizer on her and observe the smug grin. Little things amuse little minds, I responded quietly, which caused Sarah to burst out in a fit of laughter. I would miss that. We are going to nickname this gas giant Freckles, right? I asked quietly. Sarah responded weakly, as she slowly turned her head to look out at the planet where we had just arrived. No, Freckles are nice. This planet is uglier. Smallpox might be more appropriate. Don't judge a book by its cover, I said firmly, with the most appropriate human phrase I could think of. Consider this data a simulation. Certainly not diseased, just different. I took a moment to shift the data screen to where Sarah could easily view it without moving her head. I then brought up the simulation to show how the currents of the gases swirled around to create multiple mini-storms, visually similar to the spot on Jupiter, just far more numerous across the surface of the planet. Every 1,000 years, the spots will fade and then reform somewhere else in short distance away, I explained simply. The data was definitely unique in my personal database, and I made a note this should be investigated once forwarded to the academics for further research. I see, she said as a smile slowly crept into her face. Not sick, dancing and moving from partner to partner. So, if the surface is dancing, what should we call it? I asked hopefully. Lately, her suggestions had been much less inspired, which I had to admit was not unexpected, as the condition had deteriorated. Hopefully, this would be a good day. Polka, she offered after a long moment of consideration, because it's dancing and covered with dots. Polka, I said, savoring the word and updating the non-analytical notes for the planet. Today was definitely a good day, and very likely might be one of our last together. Even with dedicating a secondary processing core to scanning her body, there are limits to my biotechnology. I felt blessed to have turned her original human physician's prognosis of 12 weeks into nearly 30. Life signs fading. I didn't need the diagnostic readout. I already knew it would be today. We came together by chance. One of us is social by nature or by biology, the other designed to be solitary yet curious. We both shared a desire to see the stars, one to simply see the wonders, the other to document and share them for the good of all. Our time together had become something we both cherished. "It's been over 500 years and 10,000 star systems, old friend," I said quietly. "Human mind, complex," Lidgritis said in a labored voice, "but not too complex to make digital copy. Only claimed one secondary core." "Psst," I chided my companion. "You just did it so that you could have me claim I'm not dead yet, and don't deny it." "Technically, you're already dead," they responded slowly. "I'm just catching up." "You always were a little slow on the uptake," I said softly. "First on the non-analytical notes, and now this. Show me a new star. One last time," they said with an unexpected surge of strength. I smiled to myself as I did a quick search of the local star map. I selected a destination, something we had always wanted to see, but avoided for many practical reasons. The Gritus was integrated with the ship by design, and one cannot survive without the other. Since I was part of the ship as well, and the Gritus is dying, our final destination might as well be memorable. Before plotting the course and engaging the drive, I downloaded the Gritus' entire database into the FTL message pod and launched it. There would be no way that I would allow my companion's legacy to be lost. Once the pod was launched, I input the destination and revealed it to my friend. "Remnants of a supernova," they said with a chuckle. "Couldn't resist neutron star. Decided to live dangerously." "Why not?" I said a little cheekily. "You only live once. Or, in my case, perhaps twice. Might as well make our last trip memorable." I checked the diagnostics. There should be just enough time. I pulsed the activation code to the FTL drive, and the ship leapt forward in space. A little while later, we exited into normal space at a minimum safe distance from the neutron star, which realistically wasn't all that close. I brought up our external optics and zoomed in as much as possible. I then aimed all sensors at the speck in the distance to capture anything which might help give us an accurate picture. After a few minutes, the primary processing core was able to generate a clear image. "Amazing," we both murmured, together, one last time. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.